if you could go back to, 20-year-old you,
Okay.
when you were a star track athlete in college and high school and things like that, and you could give him 3 pieces of advice
That's a great question.
on how to really become a great man and to attract a great partner for yourself, what would you say to him with that advice?
It's a great question. I'd sit him down probably, and first and foremost, I would remind him that sometimes feeling in love doesn't always mean that you are in love, and that sometimes feelings can be misleading. Like you can feel that spark, or seduction and things like that, and that you're pining over someone, and that intensity of that excitement all can be misconstrued into love and things like that. I'd also remind him that there's no benefit to being a love martyr.
What do you mean by that?
It's actually something I was just doing another friend's podcast, and it kind of came up because, my background, I grew up, I had a great childhood, lovely parents, I have 10 brothers and sisters. I'm the second oldest of 11 kids.
Wow.
Parents are still married today. They were a great example of love. We grew up Catholic, and so there's a little bit, I don't know how familiar you are with Catholicism, but there's a little kind of martyr in the whole thing. And so I think that kind of passed down to us kids. But, what I learned from my parents was that love is special, but it's also, relationships can be really hard. And, then you grow up watching rom-coms and TV shows.
Disney and
movies like The Notebook, who have all these high stakes and, quite frankly, a lot of toxicity in relationships. But those types of shows teach you that none of it really matters as long as you end up together. And in reality, that's not really the case. But as a young man, I kind of took those lessons and thought to myself, well, love is hard, it's special and it's hard. So you just have to fight through, all these challenges. And yes, every relationship has its challenges, and you have to work through stuff. But I kind of turned into a bit of a love martyr. I got to the point where it didn't really even matter if I liked them. It's like I didn't ask myself questions like, do I enjoy their company? Do they enjoy mine? Are we even compatible? It was more like, well, I'll fight for the relationship so much that the more I fought for it, the more special I thought that relationship was and what that meant.
even if they weren't the right match.
Even if I wasn't the right match. I mean, there were, my first girlfriend, God bless her, I met her when I was 18. We broke up so many times. Usually it was her breaking up with me, and every time she broke up with me, it was like I had to fight for the relationship because, again, love is special. And whether it was my parents telling me that love is special, but you have to work hard on things, I had the right intentions, so to speak, but like it was a bit misguided. And I think through that, I spent a lot of energy on people who, quite frankly, it just wasn't the right fit.
Wow.
But I kind of misconstrued my intentions, so to speak, and kind of became that love martyr. And I think a lot of people are, sometimes where you kind of get stuck in these relationships and you think about things like, well, I can't break up now. We've been dating for so long. As if like,
We're so invested, right? Yeah.
So invested, and there would be no value to these past 3 years of our relationship if we end the relationship. So I have to keep fighting. And if I fight, I will somehow be rewarded. And my love will be special because the worse it is, the harder I have to fight. And if the harder I fight, the more special it is. And it's such a misconstrued, toxic way to look at relationships, but I very much did. So I would tell him not to be a love martyr.
Okay, and the third thing?
I would tell him to be careful about listening to your ego over your heart, and I think that's something I did a lot of. And I confused validation with love, and I think we do that a lot. So when our ego takes over, and I think, sometimes I talk a lot about ego on my show, almost to the point where I feel like it gets like a bad rep. Yes. In a way, but it's not really true. I don't know if you're like a comic book fan at all, but I kind of equate ego to like a superpower.
Okay.
A superpower that like if you an X-Men, are you familiar with like the Phoenix character? Right. She's so powerful that she can't control her own power to the point where it
kills
harms
people,
it harms others,
yeah,
right? And that's kind of like your ego. Your ego can be a superpower. Your ego is what gives you the confidence to like act as if, you had to have some kind of ego to do what you've done, right? To say, I could do this. Why not me? That takes a little bit of ego and that confidence. And that allows you to step up to the plate to, face impossible challenges. But if you can't control that ego, if you can't, be mindful of, when it creeps up, it can really lead you down dark paths. Your ego will tell you that you have to change the wrong thing, chase the wrong thing, because again, your ego is like saying, well, you're not good enough. That person who won't give you respect, who doesn't make you a priority, who treats you with disrespect, well, if you can get them to change their behavior for you, even though they've done all this with all these other people, you'll be special.
Wow.
And chasing that feeling of being special, because my ego thought, well, because I was I played sports, I was a competitive guy, that challenge, that fix of the recognition of, oh, you did this. I can't believe you did this. You got that, that boy or whatever to settle for you.
Right.
So, hey, no one else could do that, but you got to do that. And that must make you special. And so that chasing the validation and not being mindful of when your ego was telling you to chase the wrong thing, got me into a lot of trouble. And I spent a lot of time not accepting relationships that weren't really healthy for me. And I wasted a lot of my time, following my ego and not my heart.
Man. Yeah, I think we mentioned that we both kind of had like 5 or 6 kind of longer term committed relationships since we were like 16 or 18. So
yeah, it was great getting to know you on the Viall Files when you guest on the Ask Nick episodes, because a lot of parallels between like our, we face a lot, we learn through our challenges and things like that. So I got a lot of things wrong.
Yeah, me too, man. But hopefully we're able to transform that into something better now.